Hey guys, this is Mel, and I am back to talk about Motherland Fort Salem. That is episode 309, titled But I Don't Even Have a Dress, which premiered Tuesday, August 16, 2022 on Freeform. I'm recording roughly 2 hours since the episode has aired, so technically it is the following day, just after midnight. But I really want to talk about this episode. Definitely was a huge pick-me-up today. And I also wanted to keep it separate from the series finale, so I'm very excited to talk about this today. Huge spoiler alert: if you haven't seen the episode already, please go do so first, and then come back and see what I have to say about the episode. My other video reminders are up on screen, so take a moment to remind yourselves of those. I'm hoping to keep this 15-20 minutes, but I don't know how long, since there are a few things I do want to talk about or have questions. But let's get right into what happened in this episode. So timeline rise, at this point I've completely have no idea, especially in this episode. There's definitely many different time jumps. I mean, one thing is the appearance of M. Specifically, their hair is definitely short, or definitely longer than the last time we've seen them, which is in episode 304, which I think they were completely had like the buzz cut haircut, if they had any hair at all, if I'm not mistaken. And then all of a sudden they do have a head of hair. So which has me questioning how long has it actually been since episode 304. And then in the episode itself, there was at least a one week time jump due to wedding preparations. So at this point, I'm like completely lost on how long it's been since season 3 and the events of it have happened. So that's something there. If you guys have any ideas, please let me know in the comments down below. I'd really want to get that sorted out. Huge episode reminder is the fact that it is a double wedding in this episode, mainly teased from the main season 3 teaser that appeared, but also just from the title of the episode itself was But I Don't Even Have a Dress, which was said by Abigail in reference to her not having a wedding dress, because she didn't think she would be getting married when she did. But moving into the first scene of the episode, I'm saying it takes place in kind of like a tent, or like an army tent, where Petra is addressing the Bellwether unit after they've publicly announced their surrender. Petra says that they're proud of their decision to turn themselves in. She also lets them know that President Silver's men are on their way to escort them back to DC, because it was because their arrest was televised. It's helping them keep Silver accountable, and so that the Camarilla can't do any like shady business, and they can actually go to trial, which is what we're going to talk about now with the storyline. So 3 main storylines that popped up. First one, the long-awaited trial. Second, the double wedding. And third, Camarilla strike back. It's kind of all in that order, I would say. But with the trial, this is where we see the Bellwether unit. That is Abigail, Tally, Rael, and Scylla, pretty much being tortured first in their cells before they are brought to trial for their crimes, with ample media coverage. And all the Camarilla lawyers are aiming to have them appear guilty by the American public through the media coverage, instead of just with the jury inside the council room. However, President Wade returns and puts a wrench in that plan, and she actually exonerates the unit and orders for all the officials who have Camarilla ties to be arrested, including former President Silver, as President Wade is back in control. Also, Hearst and Carbrandt are AWOL while this was happening. So the trial ends there, which then leads our unit to then go to the double wedding. So Abigail originally volunteers to be the wedding planner for Rael and Scylla's wedding, but when Kalita actually is able to attend the wedding, it then becomes a double wedding, because that Kalita's absence seems to be the one thing postponing Abigail and Adele from getting married. And because the double wedding is something that Rael and Scylla were all for, it ended up being a double wedding with President Wade acting as the minister. Pretty much every character we knew was present at this wedding in some way, shape, or form. So there's that. We will talk a little bit more about that later. But the third storyline is Camarilla strike back. So while all the good times were happening, we see Hearst breaking former President Silver out of his prison cell. We also see him infiltrating Fort Salem and killing Isadora from the looks of it. He's also surprised to find Penelope still alive, and he actually is able to get into the same room as the mycelium wall. He does call the wall mother, though. Don't know if that's a mocking way or if that's the part of the witch vocal cords kind of taking an influence on him by now referring to the mycelium as mother due to the vocal cords. But who knows? Which leads into the last scene of the episode, which is in the woods in the campfire. Anacostia gets surveillance word that Fort Salem has fallen. Just before Rael seems to have fallen into a trance that leads her eyes to glow a bright blue, as well as blood to start to fall from her mouth, kind of like a consequence of something. I think that is to show it being connected to maybe her finding the mycelium wall, or maybe he did something further to the wall now that it was in its presence because Rael was connected to it. She's kind of getting the blowback off of that. So there's that. But let's move on to the other characters that do get mentioned throughout. With the marshal, we find out that the lead marshal, and all of the other marshals are connected in the same way that Alder was connected to her biddies, because when that one marshal at the perimeter was killed, that caused the lead marshal that was with President Wade to suddenly rapidly age, which caused him to crash their car, which caused them to then have to hide out in a cabin for quite some time, with M looking over a wounded president. So that was kind of like their way of updating us what was happening and why no one was able to track them down. So that's something there. With Abigail, we find out that she's the first bellwether to do that whole razor or hailstorm. Petra was very proud by that. We also see Abigail confiding in her mother about how she is feeling more connected to ancestor Jem since she did Jem's weather working. And Abigail wants to know kind of why that is the case now, and why is it the Camarilla were targeting the bellwether specifically. Petra thinks it's because they're a threat. And that's why. I don't think it's just that, just because based off of what Colonel Jarrett was kind of mocking Petra for last episode, where he's calling her not a threat and how she follows so much by the rules. But we've seen that in season 1, the Camarilla did target bellwether vocal cords for a specific reason. We just don't know why. So I think Abigail coming back on that, I hope, plays out a little bit more. And she kept wondering if she was somehow channeling Jem since performing her work. I'm wondering if that's the same way too. But I'm also wondering if that's connected to the whole earth and sky thing, which we'll talk about later. Another thing is for Alder. We see her surviving the ice cave collapse, and to pass the time, she sings her piece of the first song to the frozen witch, who doesn't give her a reply, obviously. But because she sings that, Kalita hears the song and is able to locate Alder and free her with her own working by moving a mountain to get to her. Then we see Alder saying goodbye to Tally, telling her that she's off to Africa to find the last piece of the first song. So that's something there. So I guess that is my correct theory of Hearst having that last piece of the song. So there's that. With Nikta Bektan, we find Wade telling her that she will not be getting her government pardon for the part that she played with the spree. But Nikta is ready to take full responsibility for her actions as spree. She just really hopes that Wade decides to use Nikta's knowledge in order to help them fight against the Camarilla. We'll have to wait and see about that. Hopefully, yes. I hope part of her sentence is getting her to serve in that kind of capacity. So we'll see. We do see the return of Gregorio. We found out that he was detained by oversight for his connection to the Bellwether unit, something he calls an honor, and he kind of shares a look with Tally. He also seems to have a limp. Not quite sure if that was caused by the torture by the oversight, or if that was a new permanent injury or not. But we do also see him, I guess, kind of taking that final step with Tally, because I know it's definitely hinted at last season when the few times we did see Gregorio, especially with Tally, so that's a good thing to see kind of come to fruition there. Moving on to Tidbit, though, or I guess kind of a character thing as well, too, but we do eventually see Scylla taking Rael to her special lighthouse before the wedding. It's almost like they took the honeymoon trip before their wedding ceremony, so that was a good moment there to see that they were able to get out there without being interrupted. But let's move on to the most shocking moment of the episode. I think for me, it has to be the quick pacing of the episode. Again, the episode has a teaser and 6-act structure. The reason I say quick pacing is because as episode 9 of 10, with the next episode being the series finale, I was very surprised that Act 2 covered the trial, and then once that was done, Act 3 covered like the the verdict after the trial. So like the fact that like President Wade was back in charge, the camera were being around, the camera were being arrested for where they can, and like people were like already like trying to get back to normal for the witches and like planning for the wedding. And then Act 4 was all about the wedding. Of course, Act 5, but like Act 4 had like the completed ceremony and everything. So I thought that was like, I wasn't really expecting that. If anything, I thought the episode would end like Act 6 would have the wedding, and then like right after they said I do, the final scene would be like something Camarilla centric. But yeah, so for the just quick pacing, a lot of what was covered had me thinking this feels more like this is the series finale, but at the same time it's like it had me worried because like you're giving me so many good vibe moments here in an episode right before the series finale, so it had me very worried about like, why are you giving me all the good stuff now? I feel like you're gonna take it away from me very soon with a very bad cliffhanger kind of a thing. So that was a huge shock there. But moving on to top 3 favorite moments, definitely the wedding for sure. Not only because it's long awaited to see Rael and Scylla married, as well as Adele and Abigail being married. But it was also great to see all the different couples we got. We got Tally and Gregorio. We got Anacostia and Sterling. We also got some reunions too. So we got the reunion of Rael with her father and her mother's best friend. We do see Anacostia and Alder reuniting, which I was waiting for that, and I'm loving the emotion that happened behind it. We also got the reunion between Kalita, Adil, and Abigail as well. That was really great to see. What else? We did get also the family moment for Abigail with her mother, as well, no, Abigail with her grandmother, and then later on with Abigail, her grandmother, and her mother. So it's just like a lot of great, good moments to have at the wedding. Um, and then also sidetrack that to the whole campfire moment, especially with Rael singing her song, specifically to Scylla, but everybody was encouraging her to like sing finally. So that was a good thing there. Part of me was really worried that like while she was singing, something bad would be happening on screen elsewhere, kind of a thing. But I'm glad that they did focus in the moment of her singing that song. So that was really sweet there. Another favorite I did have was just President Wade's return at the end of the trial. Like just when we think like the trial was just going downhill, Wade storming in with Petra, the marshal, and M, and then slapping Silver was just fantastic. Also, right before that, though, I really like Rael's speech. How she, like, they were right. She is coming from both worlds, coming with a mother who's a witch and a father who's a civilian, and just really appealing to being in both, not really belonging in either world, and kind of like trying to fight to be accepted by both. And I really feel like if Silver didn't cut off the speech, I think Rael's speech would have turned the tide with the like public favor, you know. But I really appreciate how she went about it, so that was pretty cool there. And the third favorite I had was Alder singing her song. I believe it's her piece of the first song, but it was just really great to see that kind of power. It was definitely beautiful. I think I was getting choked up a little bit when it was coming about. I thought maybe the witch might have been unfrozen by hearing the song, but I'm glad that we found out later that song at least led Kalita to Alder's location. I was actually surprised that she was even still in the cave, because I thought the mycelium would like pull her out of there, but I guess the mother mycelium might not have had the strength to have done that another time. So there's that. Moving on to top 3 peeve moments. One peeve I did have was Isadora's death. Very surprised that even came to be. Not even sure. I mean, it looked like they slit her throat and it looked like she was bleeding out. But I definitely was not expecting her to die the episode before the finale. So that was a shocker there. Another peeve I did have was just Abigail questioning this deeper connection she feels to Jem. The only reason why it's a P for me is just that it's being mentioned in episode 9 of 10 instead of her bringing it up in an earlier episode of the season. So it's like if they had only seeded it earlier, like I don't think I remember her mentioning Jem at all this season. So it's like it seems like it comes out of nowhere in this episode. So it's like I kind of wish that it was at least seeded, at least that thought of a connection, that deeper connection was seeded in earlier episodes, just so it wouldn't seem as abrupt as it did in this episode, which is why it's making it a peeve. I love the question. It's just like it seemed like why it seems a little late for you to bring that up when you only have one more episode left. Like, unless you're going to be able to answer it in the next episode, I'm still a little worried about that. But let's move on to random questions very quickly. I do have quite a few here. The first one, what did Kalita need to talk to Adele about when she first arrived, when he was with Gregorio preparing for the ceremony? Like, does it have anything to do with Hearst's comment about the union between Earth and Sky? I mean, yeah, technically they fulfilled that by getting married, but that can't just be the reason. Like, why would the Camarilla be worried in that type of a union? Like, what is supposed to come about that for them that's meant to be so threatening? So I'm hoping we actually get an answer about that in the finale, but we'll have to wait and see. A smaller question is, was Thelma at the wedding? Through all the different shots that appeared throughout the ceremony, I noticed a lot of people that we've seen throughout the season, but like I don't recall seeing Thelma there. The only time I really remember seeing her was at President Wade's press conference. She was Thelma was standing beside the marshal on one side, and then M was standing on the other side of the president. So that's the only time I've seen Thelma, so I'm not really sure if she was invited to the wedding or not. So that's one. Another question is, why isn't the army or Nikta Batan using their own workings to track down Hearst, since he is technically, quote, one of them, in the sense that the mycelium back at the Secession House wasn't able to harm Hearst because it detected the vocal cords that he had stolen and implanted in himself. So couldn't they use that type of connection to find his location? Like, I'm wondering why that hasn't been tried or at least referenced to. Just because he hadn't been captured yet, according to Petra. So that's something there. Another one was, do you prefer that we got the wedding before the last fight that's supposed to happen in the finale? Or would you have wanted the wedding to occur after the last fight? Part of me, like on a story level, wants it to be after the big fight, but then at the same time, they already teased this wedding in the season 3 teaser. So like that, and it's like if that wedding had happened after the big major fight, then you already kind of know who's going to be surviving from that fight. So then if you have it before the big fight, then you already know who's at least alive to this point. So now it's still really up in the air as to who will survive this final fight in the finale against the Camarilla. So I get both sides, but like on like a viewer level, it like had me very worried that because it wasn't like the final moments of the episode, kind of similar to the Supergirl season finale with the wedding of Alex and Kelly being kind of like the last thing of the episode, or like that occurred after their big climactic fight of the season. Then you kind of don't have to worry about like the enemy interrupting the wedding, because I do remember during this whole wedding in this episode, I was worried that the Camarilla were going to interrupt it because it was in episode 9 as opposed to 10, or it was happening before the big fight with the Camarilla. So I'm just wondering, preference wise, would you have wanted it to stay where it ended up being, and that is before the big fight with the Camarilla, or would you have preferred it to be at the very end after they already defeated the Camarilla, assuming they defeat the Camarilla? So that's one there. Another question, why wasn't the building that was holding Silver as a prisoner after his arrest, why was that not witch proof, or why wasn't that magic proofed? Especially since it held the Bellwether unit previously. I can understand them using the collar so that they couldn't use their powers, but what's to stop other witches from breaking in to like help them escape. I mean, if they saw that's where Silver was holding them, and then now they use this. Now the army was using the same place to hold the Camarilla prisoners. Why would they not take those extra precautions when they know the Camarilla have devices that mimic their own witch workings? I mean, we did see that Hearst used that to blast past security to get to Silver's cell. So, like, I'm just wondering why would they not go the extra step of witch proofing it? Because I'm pretty sure maybe they would have known how to put up the defenses, and maybe the Camarilla wouldn't know exactly how to decrypt those, hopefully. So that's a question there. My final one is, if Hearst didn't know about Penelope's survival, I wonder how Silver will take the news. How do you think he will take the news? Do you think it will be enough to have him change sides and go against the Camarilla? Or how exactly will Penelope react to it all? She definitely looks scared when seeing Hearst, but I'm wondering how she would react to seeing her father again. Or maybe does she remember what truly happened to her? Does she know what truly happened to her? Because I'm still curious, because it was stated that Penelope wasn't ready to be presented to the trial in order for her survival being used as a way to exonerate the Bellwether unit. So I'm wondering, like, at what state is she? Because she's not fully human just yet to be brought back in public, but I'm wondering, where does she fall? And how will that change if she sees her father again? So that's a question there. But let's move on to predictions very quickly. Again, I'm not going to watch the promo for 310. I think after these episodes air, I will then go back and watch what the promo would have been like, because I don't want to get too spoiled, especially with this being the series finale. I kind of want to just see how it goes, and when I actually watch the episode, because that's been kind of fun too. The synopsis, though, for the series finale is that in a climactic battle, the unit and its allies team up to fight the Camarilla. Alder races across the world to find the final piece of the first song. So we still have Tally's sight of Rael detonating the witch bomb. We don't know to what capacity, if that is something that needs to be done in order to activate the savior capacities that the Mycelium Mother has in store. We don't know if the witch bomb is what actually ends the world, but we do see that it is something that would have to happen, because Tally's visions can't be re-diverted, or it could go on a detour, but it always ends up happening in the very end. So we will eventually see Rael lose control of the witch bomb. We just don't know how, in what sense, and if it's meant to be a full-on good thing, or if it's a bad thing that needs to happen to lead to the good thing. So we'll have to wait and see about that in the series finale. But otherwise, guys, what did you guys think of this episode? What did you guys like about it? What do you think will happen next in the finale? Please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your own thoughts, theories, and opinions about all that good stuff. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos if you haven't done so already. My other links are up on screen or down below in the description box for Tumblr and WordPress if you want to follow me along there. Otherwise, guys, I just want to thank you so much for tuning in for my recaps. We got one more to go for Motherland, Fort Salem. Also, if this ends up being edited and uploaded a lot later after the episode is aired, I truly apologize. Today alone, which is the 16th, has just been a very rough day for my family. So the fact that this episode aired was a nice distraction for me, and I definitely wanted to record my thoughts of how I thought of the episode as my first impression. So I hope you guys stick around for next week to hear what I have to say about the series finale as we end this series up. But until then, guys, this is Mel. Wish you all a great day, great week wherever you are. Please stay safe and have a good one. Bye for now.